So good day, fellow plant lovers. Now, you might have noticed a little bit of a reduction in frequency of my videos. Work gets in the way, unfortunately, but I will catch up as time goes on. It's just about trying to balance all these things. So anyway, today I'm going to just look at some new plants that I've purchased and some new blooms. So rather than do a separate video on an unboxing, which I kind of think is a bit boring, I've already unboxed these plants and I've already potted them up. So we'll have a little look at them, very brief chat about them, not too much detail, promise. And then all we're going to look at is blooms, nothing else, just new blooms. And again, I've got loads to discuss, but I'm going to save that for another video for people who are interested in discussing about the ins and outs and intricacies of growing tropical plants, or house plants as we sometimes like to call them. So let's jump in. And we are in. Okay, so we're going to begin with one that you've already seen. It's an Impatien or an Impatien. Now, if you've never seen these before, then just think busy lizzies, and you probably have in fact seen them before. So Impatiens is a family of plants. As I say, I'm not going to go through loads of detail about it. See, I'm already beginning, I can't help myself, but let's just look at the blooms. So I'll just kind of hold those up for you to see. I think this also has a name of the parrot plant because it looks a little bit like a parrot, the blooms. But they're really quite a bright, stunning little flower. I really like those. I'm surprised that the plant itself hasn't grown too much, but it's quite sturdy. It's lost a number of leaves, but it seems to be reasonably happy. I do have another one that I bought. So this one is, if I can remember how to pronounce that, Nyamensis. This one hasn't bloomed yet, but it's looking healthy enough. So hopefully, and that one is Oricoma cross with Bicordata, the little fungus gnat coming out of there. My treatments are only partially successful at the moment. So that's Impatiens, so that's one of the new ones and one of the new blooms. I've just recently bought another climber. I'll stick some photographs or images up on screen there that you can have a look at. Not much to look at the moment. I think it's a warm climber. It's called Hardenbergia violacea, evergreen climber for a warm wall, deep purple blue flowers in winter and early. And early what? I guess that's spring, but they've missed that bit off. So that'll be interesting to see what that does. You know I like my climbers, so that's not going to go into the greenhouse. That's going to go over into the hothouse along with all the Mandevilla that I've got in there. So we've bought quite a number of Pelargoniums. Again, not a lot to look at, but at the moment, just have a look at how large that is. So that is, or that has just arrived in the post. You wouldn't think you could get that in the post. They really squished it up, and that was a couple of days ago, and it's really kind of chunked out now. It's really opened up these leaves. So this one is My Chance. This is a decorative Pelargonium My Chance. There's so many Pelargonium groups now, some groups that they've only just seemed to have come out with. I put them all in clay pots. I just find that these kind of plants seem to prefer clay pots. I'm really tempted to tell you something about the watering, but I'm not going to do. Let's keep it short. So another new one. This one has actually just opened a bloom for me. Another Pelargonium, beautiful thing. Not totally open, but it's got loads of buds on it, arrived in the post like that. This is Pelargonium Tornado. I'm really going to expand my Pelargonium growth, I think, just because they seem to do pretty well here. So let's have a look at another couple. Sorry, I keep disappearing off camera. This was the worst one that arrived, the one that was a little bit worse for wear from being in the post, but it will recover. It will definitely recover, I'm sure. This is Princess of Wales. Yikes. Princess of Wales. Again, I put some photos up. Going to look fantastic when that blooms. And I've also bought some, oh, hang on, another Pelargonium here before I go off onto another one. So this one is Kamahl. Now I've actually had Kamahl before and it died. I've had to put this one in a plastic pot just because I'd run out of clay pots. I'm going to have to get some more. I had to think about this really. Why do clay pots seem to work better than plastic pots? And I thought, well, you know what? If you're of a certain age and you remember way back to the 70s and 80s, and you might remember something called a cagoule or even a pacamac. These were basically raincoats that weren't breathable. They might have been waterproof, but they weren't breathable. And usually within 5-10 minutes of wearing one, you got really wet inside. Not because they were letting the water in, but simply because your body wasn't breathing through it, and it kind of made you sweat quite a bit. So you took it off and you felt like you had actually been in the rain anyway. So maybe that's one of the reasons why clay pots work a little better. Better exchange of gases, better ventilation around those roots. Orchid people will understand that, because that's what orchids like, don't they? So that needs to come out of that and go into a terracotta clay pot. So let's have a look at the next one. Right, you might recognise this. This is a hibiscus, or an hibiscus to be grammatically correct. So this is Rosa sinensis sprinkle rain. Now, I did try a hibiscus a number of years back and failed miserably with it, and I don't know why. Again, maybe it'll do better in a clay pot. I shall get that changed when I can. The instant it arrived, several leaves fell off. I imagine it's a really high light plant based on the fact that it grows in the Mediterranean really well. I mean, when I go to Mediterranean countries, you know, there are huge bushes, hedges of this stuff. It's like it doesn't seem to mind where it grows, so long as it gets that bright light. And the water, obviously, it can cope with a little bit of drought. But in the greenhouse, different matter, as we know. So I'm trying to put it in a really bright spot and see what happens. So I'm going to give that another go. And the final new plant for you to see before we just concentrate on blooms is another, well, according to the label, Diplodenia, and the Diplodenia is spelled incorrectly, Sanderi rosea. Again, I'll put some images up. So as we know, there is no such genus as Diplodenia, it's a Mandevilla. The sanderi is a species. Rosea, I guess, refers to the colour, or the cultivar of the colour of the cultivar, get it right. So we will put some photos up for that, and let's see if we can get some blooms off it, and let's see if we can get it growing properly. Again, it's the best time of year for this kind of thing, plus these specimens that I've got here are really good sized specimens, and especially with something like Mandevilla, the smaller the specimen, the more difficult they are to actually re-establish in somewhere new. That's what I found in my experience anyway. So hopefully that'll take off soon. I can take some cuttings as insurance, and then we'll have a different colour in the greenhouse. I have something to say about the Mandevilla in this greenhouse, but I'll save it for another video. So let's have a look round at everything that's in flower for, what are we now, mid-May. Okay, so we are on the handheld camera now. So you've seen my Mandevilla bloom once before. You might notice that there are a distinct lack of blooms at the moment, which we'll talk about on another video. A little tiny bloom here on this Bessii, Fragmipedium Bessii. Don't look at the leaves, they're horrible. Again, we'll discuss that in another video. I have got over here all my cyclamen, which are currently in the process of dying down, turning yellow, getting ready to go into dormancy for next year. But this one over here, for some reason, has decided it's going to do a second blooming for me, for whatever reason, no idea why. I've done what I normally do with them, but that one has decided it's going to throw a few more flower spikes up, but they're welcome nevertheless. So let's have a look at the various blooms that we've got going on here that you may not have seen. So streptocarpus one here. So this one is DS Horus. I actually had this one last year, but I don't think it bloomed for me in the first year. I have another couple of streptocarpus to show you. Again, I don't really want to go into too much detail about streptocarpus and why I don't have a lot in bloom at this time of year, which I normally do, but what I'm going to do is go through that in another video. So let's have a look at another strep that's in bloom. So this is Cariad, C-A-R-I-A-D. That's a nice new bloom on a streptocarpus there. I've got a number of new streptocarpus this year, which I will go through at some point. So a couple of pelargoniums have begun to take shape with some beautiful blooms. I don't know the name of this one. I think I did at one point, but I've lost it. I don't know what name that is. If anybody knows what that is, please let me know. Looking really nice at the moment. Another new one down here. So this one is Georgia. That's a really nice one. I really like the Regals. I think they're probably my favourite at the moment, the Regals. There's a nice little starry one here. This one has the cultivar name of St. Elmo's Fire. This one is a Stella Pelargonium. Again, it's 2 years old, didn't really grow much, possibly due to the way I was watering them. So I've actually changed the way of watering them. Again, go over in another video. Let's stick to the blooms. Streptocarpus Harlequin Blue, just starting to get going. And another beautiful one, this is Silver Glitter. Yeah, not done a great deal in terms of growth, but it's done this beautiful bloom for me. Gorgeous detail in that, really bizarre, and these like stripes of red just kind of, I mean, look at that. Whether, in fact, I remember from last year, this does actually happen periodically. You get these like stripes of red. For the rest of them, they're like spotted as if they're like glittered on, whereas that one has been dunked in some paint. What else have we got? Little polka dot purple, I think, there on that strap. An angel pelargonium, Escape, Verglo, another one that needs to be close up to be appreciated. A rather hairy pelargonium up here. This one is actually coming to the end of its blooms, although I say coming to the end, it'll just keep throwing them up. I have had more blooms on that quite recently. So what else have we got going on? With another one over there, which is obviously a cutting from that one down there. Just swinging round here, we have a little Pinguicula Guatemala is putting on its second show of blooms. A few little fungus gnats there. And this Masdevallia ignea has actually been in bloom now since January, and we're May now, and it's still throwing up new flowers. It actually missed a season last year when I repotted it. That one there seems to be a little distorted for some reason. I've not sprayed it with anything. I repotted it last year, and it decided, well, it would have been the winter, like the previous winter, and it decided it would have a little sulk for a year. But it's making up for it this year with all these glorious blooms. My Begonia Boweri, sending a few up there. Again, that really needs a warmer temperatures, and I've lowered the temperature in here. And over here, another streptocarpus, saxorum. This is a species one, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spikes on there. I have seen these smothered. Now I have moved it recently and I repotted it. I've got it in a brighter position, and it seems to be happier in a brighter position. So yeah, this is actually a streptocarpus, would you believe? These leaves, if they're not happy, you can see the colour that they go, and it had gone that kind of colour, mainly due to the fact that it was too shaded. And just before we move over to the hothouse, the shape of things to come, look at that. So that is my Dendrobium densiflorum. There is actually an orchid meeting this Saturday, an orchid show, and that would have been great to show. But I don't think it's going to be ready for tomorrow, do you? Such a shame. I'm hoping to be able to make it tomorrow, but there's a lot going on. I don't know whether I will actually be able to. So what we'll do now is we'll head over to the hothouse and see what's going on there in terms of blooms. Okay, over in the hothouse, loads in bloom over here. So you'll have seen this before. This is my Phalaenopsis Long Pride Gold Staff, but this is the first time I've ever had 2 lots of blooms on it, which is really, really nice to see. One of my oldest ones this. I might get some more Phalaenopsis, maybe some species ones, because they do seem to do well in the hothouse, or this one does anyway. So blooms, we're only looking at blooms, so shut your eyes while we move around. Don't need to see anything else. So obviously we always show this one, don't we? This is the Begonia luxurians, everybody's favourite. Several blooms on there. I've got a Tolumnia over here. So this is, what's this one? Tolumnia Jarak Rainbow. That was its first bloom for me there. It's, again, they're really long blooming, these. They seem to go on forever and ever. That's quite nice. Another couple of Tolumnias which haven't bloomed yet. Little tiny bloom on this Tradescantia. So Tradescantia Zebrina, and it's one of the cultivars which just name escapes me at the moment. And while we're on Tradescantia, we have Kohleria gentlei, which is putting a few little sweet white flowers on there. I quite like those. I know, okay, they're not big blousy blooms, but they're quite nice for the plant. I like them. My Kohleria Sunshine, it just goes bigger and bigger and bigger with more and more blooms, and this one actually could do with, if I don't break it here, it could do with staking. You can see it's just covered. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Again, I say this every single time. Why don't more people grow these? I think they're really, really pretty. And I've got several new ones that I've purchased. I'm just waiting for them to take off. So that definitely needs a staking. My Brassia Orange Delight, this is the first time it's put such a show on for me with 2 spikes. Never had 2 spikes on it before. I was actually that could go to the show, couldn't it? I think this is the one that I went to the last show and I thought, oh, I should have brought mine, and then I saw one with 4 spikes on it. Do you ever think, oh, flipping heck, I could have brought mine. In fact, I'd have gone and sabotaged theirs. I have my very first of the African violets, the St. Paulias, come into bloom. Now all of these St. Paulias that you can see here, all of them were from SMAR, from semi-hydroponics with SMAR, and all of them were just a single leaf. And now we've got all this growth, so this is like 12 months later, and we have a nice little purple one down there, one's about to come into bloom there, so they seem happy enough, don't they? And over here we've got this Rhyncattleanthe. I think I did show you this on a previous video, but you can just see if I'm not going to pick it up because it's in an awkward position. Very gaudy, bright orange flowers. This orchid is one that it did bloom for me last year, but this is much better. Since I've got them into this position in the sun here, they're getting much more light. And I've even got another Cattleya over there with loads of buds on it, which is just so unlike me for Cattleya's. So I have a little surprise for you in terms of blooms. So we're just going to move over here to my Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen. Easy for me to say. So this one hasn't bloomed in 4 years. It's put loads of growth on slowly over time. And finally, I have my first peduncle, my first set of waxy blooms, which gives a rather nice scent off. Well, when I say rather nice, it's a bit sickly really, but at least it's a scent. Any scent is better than no scent in my estimation. So I am happy with that. I do have a number of other Hoyas, one in particular which I really like, which is another one from SMAR actually. It was a cutting, an unrooted cutting, which is Wilbur Graves. And it's taken rather a long time, but it now has 2 new leaves on it and another little spike in the middle though, which I think is just like a stretching part of the stem. So I can't remember how long I've actually had this before it's done anything. I actually doubted whether it had rooted. What's that, February, so it has been quite a while. That needs a water. So that's it for blooms for today. I said it would be a quick one for me. I didn't want to go into too much detail, but I have another video coming where I'm going to talk about numerous topics about various plants and various things that's going on, so I hope you'll join me on that one. And if you watch this video over here, then maybe you too will be able to crack your fungus gnat problem. So for now, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.